Alright folks, I wasn't going to bring you along through all this grinding and stuff, but I made a few parts. We're going to build a stand for this ratchet bender. I bought off a Temu of all things, and it looks to be like it's going to be alright. So I'll do some kind of little review on it or something, because it wasn't dirt cheap, but it was cheaper than most places that you can buy one. The first thing I'm going to do is weld some little feet to the bottom of this wheel, because that's what we're going to use for our base. Wheels are, by definition, the way they're made, they're pretty stout. They don't flex a whole bunch. I'm going to have to be able to move this bender. I have a very small shop here, so I'm going to have to be able to bolt it down, because ratchet benders take a lot of torque. And then when I'm done with it, I got to unscrew it and move it. We're going to have to put some little cap bolts in to keep the holes from getting full of stuff. But it's going to be over right here is where I'm thinking, kind of so I can use it and still move it and whatever, but we'll see if that works out. So anyway, I got to weld those tabs onto the bottom there, and it ain't got no gas in it. This first one we're just going to put on. I cleaned up the spot for it. Try to get the next one where everything's even, so if we have to rotate it for one reason or another, we can. So I'm just trying to get a center point there. Probably not the best way to do it, but here we go. $26 1/4 from that edge over to it. 26, so we're going to move it right over to the edge of there. And I'm going to call that good. It's going to be, I'll mark it because it's going to, we're going to change. What's 12 1/4 from 13 3/4? So we need to come 3/8 of an inch back. Curiosity. So 12 1/4 and 3/8. Help me with my math. 12 5/8. See if we're remotely close. Uh, 12 3/8. 12 1/2. Alright, so we're not completely square on those. We're just a skosh off. Not bad. I'll take it. I ain't got any choice. About 3 inches there. 3 inches to this, where this wheel offset is. So that leaves us 46, so that leaves us working with roughly 34 inches. We don't have to be exact. I had a torpedo level at one time, I don't know where it went. So this needs to go this direction. So I'm going to start a weld over here first. Actually, let's see. Whoa, 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 whoa! that good enough? We can shim underneath it if we need to. Look at it one more in this direction. What's happening?
What you working on?
Making a stand for that bender that I bought there. That's a situation where I probably should have went and turned it up, but we just went extra slow instead. Let that heat sink in. So anyway, there we are, welding with the TIG. I may put a gusset right in there, keep that from flexing. And once I go get some more gas for the MIG, I may run around that a little better, but that's a good start. But in the instructions, this said a spacer plate. I'm not sure what. Put it right there still. Holes line up, so that's good because I didn't check them. This is why we're going to have to mount it, be able to mount it and unmount it. I think this thing's going to have to be something like this. May bring it in a little closer to the edge, but where that can still swing and everything go like that. So I got this die off of Woodard Fabrication. The problem is this pin that goes in this Temu bender is slightly big, not by far. So I am getting ready to see if I can buff that out just a little bit. And of course I don't have the proper tools, so this is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to see if I can get this. Let's see, which way is that going to spin? Let's see if I can make this emery cloth stay on here, and if we can buff that out just a little bit. And I'm just doing that by rolling this emery cloth up in on here. If I can roll it all up on there, I won't even have to rip it off. So I brought out a little more abrasive stuff. Didn't make y'all sit through it, but did the same thing. It's maybe got a little burr right out on the end of the shaft too, because it gets a little covered. But anyway, once we buffed it out of there, polished it out enough, everything seems to fit. I have a feeling it will loosen up. I have a feeling that these holes should go back up into here better. And also, let's see where that pin is supposed to go. This roll pin is like a depth gauge for this. Hold it up out of there. Makes more sense. This gets more straight. So the idea is to get this as out of the way as I can, yet still usable, meaning this will still swing We're going to try and keep the bar going kind of out that direction and turn it around this way. So I'm going to go get a piece of metal and we'll see how that's going. Trying to figure out a decent place to do all this. We're going to use some drop-in anchors, which I have never used before, so it'll be y'all's first time as well as mine. There's 3/8, takes a 1/2 inch drill bit. They're 1.5 inches long. So I got 5 of those in case I mess one up. I got some bolts. I got a 1/2 inch concrete drill bit. And so I'm going to set all that over. There's a tool here somewhere. I imagine that you could just use like a drift punch to knock the bottom of those down where they seat, but I went ahead and bought the actual tool just in case. So I'm going to mark these holes. We're going to act like I know what I'm doing, even though we all know I barely do. One thing, it says that there's a minimum anchor depth of 1 5/8 inches. So we're going to go 1 3/4 inches. I got the drop-in anchors because this can't stay here all the time. And I didn't want the studs poking up out of the concrete for trip hazards. We'll have to screw the bolts back down in them, so there'll still be a little bolt head up there just to keep them cleaned out where we don't have hell cleaning them out every time. But that's why I got the drop-in ones. The way I understand it, setting these drop-in anchors against the bottom is part of it. So you don't want to drill too far because they'll drop all the way through the concrete. Where when you have the studded one, a wedge anchor will still work that way. A lot of times I drill those through so I can knock them all the way down if I want to later, if I do something different. We don't have that option with these. This is a hammer drill, so don't let your grandma find it because you won't get it back. But it works good for concrete. There's our holes. So these things are supposed to just drop in. They have the threads right at the top. It has a thing in it down there. It works kind of like a rivet, I guess. You just knock them down until they wedge out. It says you'll feel them grab firm. It gets solid. So we got 3 of the 4 tightened up, and the other one's kind of the way that it's going to be pushing down on it. Okay, we're going to start 20 inches. And that's going to gain a little on the radius as it goes. And the back is going to need to be a hair longer, so okay, so that's 20 inches lined up right to the back of the shoe. I'm thinking I need to go about 110. This doesn't fit in there very good. This is one thing, using the other. Using a wood or die in this Temu piece, but let's see. Oh, another thing, I have to go, there's a bolt back behind here. So there's this bolt, you see where that is, and this is what holds this over. If you're doing a 45 or a little more than that, you don't need to worry about this. This is not a big deal. But when you get to about 90 degrees or a little over, this thing in the past, the bender I used in the past, wanted to slip. And when it slips, it generally kinks what you got going there. So you want to put a little pressure on this, because we're going to go about 110 degrees. And then looking down, I'm going to put this about there, and then we're going to go at it. And we're going to try and get it to like the nearest click as I go around. We are also going to lube this up so it slides through that shoe a little better. So we're going to come back, get a grab on our next hole. It's showing about 68 degrees. As we near 90, I'm going to check this bolt for tight again. Glad I did. It kind of seated into everything. I don't want that to move. I might have sprayed that a little too far back. And I'm just doing that so it doesn't try and drag it back this way out of that die. Okay, we should be able to get it this time around. I mean, we are at the end of our bend right there. All in all, happy with the Temu bender. I think it's just a rebranded one that you're going to buy from somebody else anyway. So the only thing, I had to buff the center pivot of this die out, and so I'm happy so far. It didn't slip, but we set it, we locked it in there so that it wouldn't. I'm going to mark this. If you want to see this installed, I have another channel for that. We're doing everything that we do to the factory stock mechanically and setup wise. That's another channel, Trackside Wisdom. And it's a lot more niche down into just doing the work on these cars. So go over there, see if you like that, subscribe to it if you do. Thank you all.